are now locked in and listening to The Issue.
This guy is a franchise quarterback, and no, I don't want to hear any pushback on that.
It feels like a top 10 roster to me. It feels like it can win a championship.
This is The Issue.
Yo, what's up? We're back. It is The Issue, Thursday, July 20th, and another episode here for you today. Sticking with the trend, the last 3 episodes have been all NFL. This one will be no different. A lot of football to talk as we get closer and closer to the season. So, we have one more episode after this in July. Then we are into August, and in August, football starts. So, we got the preseason kicking off in 5 weeks, and then rolling right into the regular season there, starting, I think, September
7th is that Thursday night game. The 10th would be that Sunday for most teams,
Exactly. So, it'll be a good one. This episode, we're going to start with Tim's rant, kind of on QB saturation, right? There's a lot of quarterbacks in the league, and really only a couple that end up rising above the rest and really standing out when you take, a retrospective look on their career. So, we're going to talk about that to start. Hits and misses will finish the first segment, and then in the second we will have NFC North predictions. So now we move to the Northern, so we're going to do NFC this week, AFC North next week, and then we're going to finish the second segment out here with some NFC North superlatives, and then in the third segment, home to the news and a little discussion on all the running back drama in the NFL. I've been seen stories the last couple of days,
a lot
of tweets. So people are speaking their minds. We're gonna talk about it a little bit. But, thanks for being here, guys. We appreciate it. You can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Amazon Music, Amazon Prime Video, and iTunes. So no matter how you're here, we appreciate it.
It's an exciting time, like you mentioned, getting into the football season. For those who might be clicking on this video for the first time, seeing us, we are predominantly NFL. That's what we like to talk about, and that's what the ratings show that you guys like us talking about as well. It's NFL's king, and we will talk a little bit about that later as well. But so this era of football, like social media, kind of the junction of the two, not just in the NFL but sports in general, I've noticed a trend from the general public. I'm not sure they're fully understanding the NFL completely, right? I don't think they get the history of it, right? So ESPN polled executives, coaches, scouts, and players, and made a ranking of the top 10 NFL quarterbacks. Mahomes is number 1, obviously not a lot of argument there. Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, again, not a ton of argument there. I could hear the argument for Allen above Burrow, but it's, those are the top 3 pretty much. I disagree with Rodgers at 4, but nonetheless, I think he's fine. Herbert 5, Hurts at 6, Lamar 7, Trevor Lawrence 8, Dak, and then Stafford at 10. Again, not a ton of disagreement. I think Lamar above Trevor Lawrence is kind of crazy, but MVP, been to more playoff games, all that. So I get that argument. Dak's a little high to me, but whatever. But this list had a lot of hype around it. And some of the guys on the list also have their own hype train in a sense. Like Lamar, I feel like you can't really talk about Lamar in a negative sense without getting a ton of blowback, right? Same thing with Dak. And I like Herbert, but same thing with Justin Herbert as well. And, so I got to thinking about how everybody wants to give these people the flowers and the praise, and that's great, good for them, good guys. Nothing against anybody that I ever discussed personally. Hope they find some level of success. But I'm going to tell you right now that out of those 10 guys, about 5 of them are going to be remembered and be legendary, and 5 will not. And it's tough because 2 of those guys on the list, Rodgers and Mahomes, already will be legendary without having to do another thing. I'm sorry, but it's true. There's a level of saturation to any market, right? There's a reason that RC Cola doesn't dominate anything, right? Like Coke and Pepsi are plenty, right? The market tells you we don't need a third big soda provider. How about phones, right? There's a reason that the Amazon Fire phone didn't do so hot. Like, we're just fine with iPhone, Samsung, a little bit of Google sprinkled in there, although I don't think it's that great, but this isn't a debate on phones, but you get the point. There's a level of saturation. I think it's the same thing with quarterbacks. I mean, look at this past quarterback generation, one that a lot of people would say is maybe the best of all time, right? Big Ben, 8, right? 2 Super Bowls. Brady, obviously, with his, 7. Manning had 2. Eli has 2. Breeze was able to steal one in there. Aaron steals another one. I mean, like, Flacco steals one, but it was more about defense than anything. Russ steals one, again, more about defense than anything, but nonetheless, they still get one. I would say Russ is close to being a Hall of Famer. Flacco, probably not, but you get the point, right? It's not that easy, and there's not that wide of an array of quarterbacks that are able to win these. So, now let's look at some of the guys in that past generation that weren't able to break through and be what I would say legendary. I would start with Phillip Rivers. Now, I know people would say he's a Hall of Famer. I'm not going to lie. I would disagree. I think stat compilers doesn't necessarily make you a Hall of Famer. I think you have to be great when it matters most. Eli, for example, was exactly that. 2 unbelievable playoff runs, outdueling Brady in 2 Super Bowls, right? Like, that is the Hall of Fame. That is great. That is excellence. Sustained above average, to me, isn't a Hall of Fame, right? So Phillip Rivers wasn't able to win one. How about, a lot of people don't talk about Carson Palmer, top high school quarterback, top college quarterback, like I think maybe first overall or a first round pick for sure, doesn't win one. Mark Sanchez, same thing, number 1 out of high school, first round pick, coming out of college, didn't work out. Didn't work. Tony Romo wasn't able to win one. Now, granted, he was like an undrafted guy, kind of underrated, but still, never won one. Donovan McNabb, never won one. Matt Stafford in Detroit had to wait till the end of most of the leaders, right, the Bens and the Bradys, right, had to wait till closer to the end of their careers and had to go to the best coach in football at the time to then win one. Matt Ryan never won one. Or like, you go look, and these are all guys that I would say at any given point in their career would have been thought of ranked anywhere from 6 to 12 on the quarterback rankings, right? Like somewhere in that second half of the top 10, where a lot of guys like Trevor Lawrence are. Justin Herbert, right? Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson. Guys that we think fringe top 5, but you could argue yourself into like 8, 9, or 10. Right? I'm not even including guys like, how about Caleb Williams, Drake May? They're projected to walk in and be top 15 guys off the rip. Like, don't even get me started on a quarterback busts that don't work out. Like, we'd love to think Kyler is super talented. First overall pick, is pretty good the first couple years. Doesn't guarantee a thing. Daniel Jones, Deshaun Watson, hell, Kenny Pickett. Like, there's a level of saturation. Those are guys right there that love Kenny Pickett. I build around him right now. But I think it's a reality of the league that you're not going to have a bunch of people that win Super Bowls. I mean, there is a ton of talent in this league. Like, let's just play a hypothetical game. Over the next 10 years, I'm going to go ahead and give Mahomes 2 more Super Bowls. And I think I might be on the under on that. I think 2 is very fair. So he gets 2 more. Over the next 10 years, that leaves 8 total Super Bowls to be had for Dak, Kirk Cousins in the latter part of his career, Jalen Hurts, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, Lamar. Hell, I'll even throw Deshaun in there. A lot of people think of him as a star still. You start crunching numbers. I'm telling you right now, a lot of these guys, they're going to be up a creek without a paddle, right? Like, we like to give everybody their flowers and, but he's great. There's a difference between great, going to win Super Bowls, going to be remembered historically, damn near Hall of Famer, and, yeah, an okay career. Starter for 10 years, won a couple playoff games, lost in a couple conference championships. Like, it is very difficult to win in this league. There's a saturation of the market. There is a breaking point where not all these guys can win. Not all these guys are going to end up being stars like you think, right? You're not going to be able to have 10 Hall of Famers in the league at the same time. That's just, it's not possible, right? I know everybody wants to give everybody the flowers, right? Lamar's heading for the Hall of Fame. Well, I mean, not necessarily. He probably needs another MVP. Definitely needs a Super Bowl. So just slow down, pump the brakes a little bit. There's a level of saturation in the market. I think we're close to reaching it. I think, unfortunately, you're going to get guys like a Kenny Pickett, like a Deshaun Watson, like a Kyler, that unfortunately probably won't win a Super Bowl. And that's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah. And the fan bases will come to the quarterback's, defense like no other. We have people from New York telling us that Daniel Jones is a top 5 quarterback and that he's one of the best in the league. Like, are we serious?
Look, it's fine to be optimistic, but you also have to be realistic at the same time.
Yeah,
and like,
you have to be.
And to just pretend like this isn't a fact. This is like the whole discussion whenever you predict for the playoffs, and there's like new teams in there. They're like, like, how can you say that like the Giants aren't going to make it? They made it last year. 5 new teams a year, at least.
Yeah.
So that's the reality
You're not
situation. Nobody wants
guaranteed-
to accept it.
You're not guaranteed a playoff spot just because you made it in years previous, you know?
Yeah, it's a fact.
Either way, let's go. We have hits and misses to get to, go over where we were right and wrong in the last week.
Let's do it. Hit number 1 here. Every year, whenever we do... You're right over there.
Yeah, all good.
Every year when we do the predictions for the divisions, right? So we did, what we do? The West first, right? We did NFC West and AFC West. Now, so every year when we do it, we're doing NFC North this week. We look at our predictions from last year, right? To kind of see where were we at, what can we improve upon, right? And we damn near nailed it last week, or last year, I'm sorry. We had like Minnesota in first. We had the Bears in the basement, so we nailed both of those. And then the Packers and Lions, that was a coin flip, right? That came down to a Week 18 game at Lambeau.
Yeah.
I figured if it came down to that, then the Packers would be a little bit better. They're at home. Hall of Fame quarterback, it's at Lambeau prime time. Jared Goff prime time outside hasn't been very good. So I was like, okay, that makes sense. So of course the Lions win. They end up finishing a spot above the Packers, which is reverse from what we had. But again, a coin flip, I would still consider it a hit overall.
Yeah, I think so too. And the thing is, and this is why it's so brutal from our side, when we are predicting stuff like that, could you imagine the pushback that we would have gotten from Packer fans if they would have seen preseason, we have them in third?
Third? Oh my God.
Even if you're right at the end of the year, you can go back and at everybody that commented on that negatively and saying
we should. Didn't we have 3 divisions that we hit on perfectly? Two divisions maybe?
3 that we hit on perfectly, and then I think
like another 2 or 3, kind of like this one where we had first and last,
Right.
a couple switches here and
I
there,
think
but
there were
overall
just
pretty
two dumpster
correct.
fires of divisions too.
Yeah, that was tough. I missed one here. So I've been back and forth on my opinion with the Eagles. After last season, I really admired the coaching and the players, like the effort, the schemes. They were a clever football team. They were physical, but then they could spread you out.
Yeah.
I really respected them and in a sense kind of like rooted for them. Not in the Super Bowl, but like rooted for them overall. Well, they've kind of crossed the threshold for me into like wildly annoying and like just kind of whiny and arrogant, right? Like if I hear one more thing about the turf at the Super Bowl, like I'm gonna lose my mind. Like it is so ungodly, asininely stupid to hear somebody say that the turf gave us a disadvantage but helped the other team that was playing on the exact same surface.
Yeah.
What are you talking about? Like that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like that is point blank stupid, and like it has now made me like viscerally dislike the city of Philadelphia and the Philadelphia Eagles, which is a damn shame because I really respected them. Outside of Jalen Hurts, I hate the entire organization. So done with it. I'm so done with it.
Plus, let's not forget that you guys are an NFL team, and you have equipment managers that were coming out with better cleats to better suit the new turf for you, like a quarter into the game after you were already complaining about it. So don't sit here and just keep bitching about it, because the Chiefs were fine. And Patrick Mahomes completed a lot of passes.
I'm not saying it wasn't a problem, but can we understand that it was we played in the same
It
field.
goes both ways. It's not just one.
It's not a disadvantage. It's just a problem for everybody.
It's not like they made the turf slippery and then gave the Eagles basketball shoes to wear for the game, right? Everybody had cleats. Everybody played on the same surface. Get over it. You lost.
It very, very much bothers me, and I kind of missed on the fact that I did respect the organization. So, hit number 2 here. We said this before Daniel Jones even signed the contract, during the contract negotiations, after he signed the contract, that when you sign a very, very average to below average quarterback for almost $40 million a year, there will in some way be a financial handicap in the organization. Now they can't sign Saquon Barkley to a long-term deal. They have to franchise tag him. I think the deadline for the extension was Monday at 4. Mm-hmm. They didn't get it done. And now we have a potential holdout looming. He's not going to go to training camp. We'll see how long the holdout lasts. But we said this when he signed the deal. First of all, terrible. Just in that isolated situation, would never pay him $40 million. Salary cap would definitely not pay him $40 million. No. Especially now knowing that you have to sign Saquon in either this year or the near future. It doesn't make any sense. We said it when they did it, and now we see why that's a bad thing.
Yeah, and look, it's kind of started a cascading effect across the league now, too, with all the running back drama.
Yeah, we're going to talk about that later. It's getting dicey.
It is, and, you hate to see it because you want to see the bigger star get paid. I think Saquon is definitely more deserving of a big contract than a Daniel Jones.
I'm not saying that he deserves more than Daniel Jones, but like in perspective to the position that
Like
they
relative
play.
to the market of running backs and quarterbacks,
Right.
if you can find something that, ends up equaling out. But like Daniel Jones, $40 million. That's what you're gonna not be able to sign people for?
I'm with you, bro. I'm with you. Miss number 2 here. I did not expect D-Hop to go to the Titans at all. I thought probably felt more like a ring chase type moment, like where sign a 1-year deal with like a Kansas City, go be their number 1 receiver, get 70 catches, 10 touchdowns. I'm not saying his image is bad, but he's kind of got this image of like a little bit aloof, kind of his own guy. The teams that he's on don't necessarily win big; they just win like regular season, unless you're Arizona this year. But that's a whole other story. So that was kind of his image. So go rebuild your image in Kansas City. Not a lot of pressure. You have Mahomes, Andy Reid. That's what I thought he would choose. Of course, he ends up going to the Titans. 2 years, $26 million guaranteed, up to $32 with incentives.
Yeah.
I don't hate it though. I mean, it's a well-run organization, good coach, good run support for play action.
The
like
only thing is
wonky division.
I don't love the quarterback.
Yeah, I don't love the quarterback, but at the end of the day, it is a very stable. And I get so whenever somebody moves, right? Somebody makes a move. What are they primarily deciding it on? And a lot of times it's what they didn't have at their last job, relationship, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And Arizona's a hot mess. So what he decided to go with? Boring, stable, like well run.
Yeah, somebody from the Belichick tree, but like also not as controlling as a Bill Belichick, where he's just going to make your life a living hell.
Yeah, I would agree. Hit number 3 here. I said this for a long time. We talk about this all the time. The NFL's king. I mean, ratings are going to show it, searches, views, whatever. It's not even training camp, and all the stats on all the platforms we use show that everybody, especially you guys that are watching and listening, are looking for NFL content.
Yeah.
It's good because we like covering it. That's kind of what we do best. But it's very obvious that the NFL is significantly more popular than any other league, and it's not all that close, to be honest with you.
No, and I mean, you look at it, like you said, our stats are a great, I guess,
Indicator.
Empirical form of evidence there. So
Vocab word of the day. We should have a whiteboard, just vocab word of the day, just slap it up on there.
empirical.
Yeah.
So
Is that the first time we've said the word empirical on the Issue podcast?
it might be.
It's gotta be.
It might be, but
It's gotta be.
Either way,
I don't even think I've said the word empirical in the last 3 years since we've had the podcast on or off air.
Yeah.
Okay,
There we go.
Continue with your point. I just thought it was interesting.
No. So in the last 2 weeks? So 2 weeks ago, views were up like 220%, and then now they're up like another, I think, 300% from this last week. So it's crazy. People are consuming NFL content, and more and more and more as the season gets closer. So we're pumped to cover it here.
It's awesome. Miss number 3 here. So I had a rant and a subsequent TikTok to go along with it that got some flack for me comparing Bill Belichick to Mike McCarthy, and I think it's a miss because I do feel like I didn't clarify properly, and I kind of misspoke a little bit. Yes, statistically, there's evidence that Mike McCarthy versus Bill Belichick without Tom Brady is a better, more winning coach. I think that is a legitimate statistical argument, and I may have uttered that Mike McCarthy's better, and I do, but I think on a game-by-game basis, like Bill Belichick, I think is a better football mind. I do think he's a better coach. It's just an interesting comparison nonetheless statistically. Yeah. I don't know if I conveyed that as well as I wanted to, but, still, I still think it's a valid argument to be had that at the end of the day, when it comes down to wins and losses, who's been better recently? Mike McCarthy. But do I think he's a better coach than Bill? Not necessarily.
No, and I mean, stats don't always tell the whole story, but there is something to look at.
Yeah, I think it can support an argument. Yeah,
when you're looking at Bill, and the wins just haven't been the same since Tom left. So
yeah, it's just a fact of the matter. But guys,
NFC
really don't want to go anywhere, because when we come back, NFC North, the predictions will go 4 through 1, and then after that we will do the superlatives. We'll talk MVP, offensive player of the year, defensive player of the year, breakout player, and then coach of the year. It's dare I say can't miss?
It's can't miss. You can't miss it.
Okay, cool. It's can't miss. Guys, right. Don't go anywhere. Oh, here we go. Second segment, the issue, the 20th of July. Already, like we had mentioned previously, we are almost in August. Football begins in August in terms of preseason games. I'm not sure exactly when. I know the Hall of Fame game, I think, is like the first week of August.
Yeah.
Very excited for that. Of course, the actual opener of the season, September 7th. September 10th is the Sunday that everyone else plays, but the first game is the 7th, that Thursday in September. So we are ramping up. We are almost all NFL. Easy now there. Almost all NFL. So we have the divisional predictions. We got the NFC North, including the superlatives. We always go through the MVP, offensive and defensive player of the year, a breakout player, and the coach of the division. So we'll get to that. And then in the third segment, we'll have the sports news. A little bit of talk on running backs. A lot of drama, a lot of noise coming from the running backs, talking about what they deserve to be paid, franchise tags, this, that, the other thing. So we'll talk a little bit about that and our stances on that. Without further ado, though, let's just jump right in.
Yeah, we got the NFC North.
So those who are new here, we always go 4 through 1. So we will start in the basement with the Chicago Bears. Look, I do think they made strides. I like DJ Moore. I don't love Claypool, but I think he's serviceable as a 3, Darnell Mooney being their 2. I think it's at least a competent wide receiver core.
Yeah.
They should be able to run the football somewhat decent. Offensive line is getting better, although not great. Justin Fields, I just worry, can he hit the layups, right? I'm not worried, can he make the spectacular run and sometimes the occasional really nice throw? Yeah, but can he not miss like the 5 or 6 plays built into the game where it's like screen passes, swing passes, slants that are there, right? Like the throws that you should hit more times than not.
Like
that
the
he
mundane
hasn't
stuff.
been. Yeah, and he hasn't been doing that, so I think that's my concern. And then the defense is good, but it's not special. I think some of the moves and some of the people they pay are a little overrated and a little overvalued. So good, improving on the right trajectory, but I don't think they're ready to compete for a playoff spot quite yet, even in the weaker NFC.
Yeah, I don't think so either. This is a team that's always been a little slower. I mean, they had that one season. The season the Steelers started 11-0. I think the Bears started like 6-0 or something like that, or 5-1.
Yeah,
maybe.
yeah. And we both said like that's
gonna return to normal, and it did. And even in this season, I mean, could they maybe get off to a little bit of a hot start? Maybe. I mean, early season football is so different. And that's the one thing that we have to always keep in mind when we're doing these divisional predictions, is that there are 2 seasons in football. There's the first season, which is through week 8, and then the second season, which is the rest, the
and then
remaining 9.
Then there's the third for some of the teams that make the playoffs.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I don't expect much from the Chicago team whatsoever.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. In third place, oh man, they're gonna come after us. The Green Bay Packers.
Yeah.
Look, there's a lot to like here. Okay, all right, buddy. Okay, the coach, like the coach a lot, right? Do I think he's special? It's yet to be seen. It's really hard to judge a coach when it's like you have a Hall of Fame quarterback that's been running your offense now for 3 years. So it's hard to. We need to see him outside of that, but I do think he's a promising young coach. I like their run game a lot. I think they always have good offensive lines. They have emerging talent at wide receiver. I do think Christian Watson could be a big time one at some point in his career in this league. The defense has some talent. I think they lack pass rush. I don't love their linebackers. Jaire Alexander should have a better year on the back end. This all leads back to the one glaring problem that I just don't know how they solve, and it's the quarterback position.
Jordan Love.
I don't know what I'm getting out of Jordan Love, and all signs point to I'm not going to like what I get out of Jordan Love.
Yes. I mean, we talked about it, was it last week? Last week you had the rant on that?
Yes,
temper expectations.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And when that's coming out of the front office of the organization, it's generally not a good sign. Look, like you said, it's a fine roster. It's enough to compete in the NFC. But without the right guy at quarterback, you're not going to do anything as an NFL franchise.
Yeah.
I mean, you could have the best team in the world, and you're not going to win anything major. You're not going to, especially in this situation, right? It's not like they have a roster to the strength of like a San Francisco where it doesn't really matter who's the quarterback. Just, don't screw it up. Don't crash the Mercedes.
Yeah.
Just keep it on the road. Don't throw a ton of bad timed picks, right? You can throw a pick here and there, but like for the most part, just let the roster take care of itself.
Yeah.
Green Bay isn't to that point yet where they still hinge on the quarterback.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I mean, so you said without an elite quarterback, like even look at a quarterback who we view as top 12, Kirk Cousins, hasn't won anything either, only one playoff win, right? So it's tough to win in this league without a star quarterback. Second in the division here, the Detroit Lions at 9-8. Now, They also went 9-8 last year. I think they're going to be a better football team slightly. I think the wins are going to be a little bit more emphatic. They're going to be in more games.
Maybe to 10-7. They might be able to.
It could be close, right? I think they have a chance to win the division. I do have them making the playoffs at 9-8. And we're going to talk about coach. I think Dan Campbell's going to do a very, very nice job. I do like Goff with protection. Goff's very, very good. Jahmyr Gibbs out of the backfield should be good. Again, he's a rookie, so we don't know.
Yeah.
I think Amon-Ra St. Brown might be one of the most underrated wide receivers in the league because he doesn't have the physical stature of a 1, but production-wise, he is every bit of a number 1 wide receiver in this league. And again, back to the offensive line, very good. Penei Sewell, Ragnow. Like, they have guys up front.
Yeah.
So they should be very, very good. The defense is just where it all falls apart, though. Can't stop a nosebleed. I like the offense to be able to put up 24, 25 points a game. I don't like the defense to hold up in most cases. I just don't.
Yeah, I mean, I like some of the draft picks, but, I mean, those are still unproven young rookie guys that we haven't seen play yet. And the thing with the Lions, would it shock me if they got to first? No. Because I think they are going to be a lot better than, at least somewhat improved from last season, and I don't think the Vikings are going to be as great as they were last season.
The Vikings aren't going to go 11-0 one-score games.
So, I mean, can you hear the argument for Detroit number 1?
Absolutely.
Sure, but at the end of the day, we have to keep in mind that
it's
Detroit.
Yeah.
So, like, I think they'll get there eventually. I think they're maybe 1 to 2 seasons away from cementing themselves as a number 1 team in that division, depending on how Jordan Love looks.
Also, if they continue to make the right moves. Again, it is Detroit,
Yes.
so we've seen them not make the right moves in the past.
Except I think Dan Campbell has been really good for this organization.
Well, I think he's been smart. Yeah, he's been a very, very nice coach.
As he continues to take over those reins, he'll get him to the 1 spot eventually. But I'm just saying, I don't think this is the season where that happens.
I would agree. So that obviously leaves the Minnesota Vikings at 10-7, definitely taking a step back from 13-4. Look, they went 11-0 in one-score games. That typically doesn't happen. I think Kirk's going to be very good. Justin Jefferson is going to be very good. I think there's going to be a couple plays here and there late in games where, like, first of all, their defense is bad. So there's going to be a couple games where their defense doesn't make that extra stop and they lose because of that. There's going to be a game or two, like at Philly week 2, prime time, that Kirk, he doesn't lose you a lot of games. He keeps you in almost every game, but about once or twice a year, he goes off the rails and completely loses the game, 3-4 picks, you know?
Yeah.
And he'll probably have 1 or 2 of those this year. Again, I still like Kirk Cousins. I usually bake that in when I think about it. I'm like, oh, because if Kirk didn't have those type of games, he would be a top 10 quarterback, no doubt about it. I think he is, but most people don't. I still think Kirk's very good. So they're still going to be a very, very competitive team. Obviously making the playoffs, by winning the division. 10-7, they'll host a playoff game, maybe even win one. But yeah, Minnesota 10-7 feels right to me.
Yeah, I like it. It makes sense. It's like one of the only. The only one with like pieces that have been proven that you can see that are going to do well.
I haven't seen
the
Detroit
rest of the
do it.
division.
I haven't seen Jordan Love.
The rest of the division is a complete question mark.
It's a bit of a dice roll. It's a bit of a dice roll of a division. To go back through, we have Chicago in the basement 6-11, then Green Bay 7-10, Detroit at 9-8, finally Minnesota on top at 10-7. That is the NFC North divisional predictions.
Yeah. So now it's time to transition into, who's going to be making the plays in this division this year. Give you some of the superlatives. We're talking MVP, Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Breakout Player, and Coach of the division. So let's get into that.
All right, so let's start with the MVP, cream of the crop of the division, of course. Let's go with, I think at least the newest member, at least the newest wide receiver to make the Madden 99 club, Justin Jefferson. From day one, he's been probably a top at least 10 wide receiver. Over the last 2 years, I think he's been closer to top 3. I currently, right now, think he is the best wide receiver in football. From the route running to the speed, the separation, the hands. That catch in Buffalo last year, that is unbelievable.
Insane.
The body control. And I do think he's got this element of like a good swagger to him that you need as a pro athlete, but I don't think it crosses over into
it's not like diva
into an issue, right? I think he's a grown up in the room, but he also has that little bit of swagger, that little bit of it factor that you're looking for. Overall, very, very nice player. MVP of the division. Almost feels like a no-brainer.
Because when you look and you assess the value here, without Justin Jefferson, what would that offensive weapons room be like in Minnesota?
And they don't have Dalvin Cook anymore, so It would be T.J. Hawkinson at tight end.
man.
KJ Osborne?
And you're out. Like
KJ
so,
Osborne, yeah.
Now
they have Jordan Addison. Oh man, that could be a lethal 1-2 punch. I totally forgot that.
Right, but if you take the one away, a lot of times the two doesn't look as good.
Right.
So I think Justin Jefferson holds the most value here for sure.
I would agree. All right, offensive player of the year. This is somebody that we both have as a very, very underrated player. I already mentioned him once. AMON-RA St. Brown.
Yeah.
I think, and I said this 5 minutes ago. The production that he has a number one level production just because he doesn't have the stature and the size as a typical number one. He's under the DK Metcalf or like the Jamar Chase size.
Yeah.
But very, very productive. A lot of touchdowns, good yardage. Trust me, I had him on my fantasy team. Fantastic.
So did
Love
I.
it.
Yeah.
Really nice player. And I also think he brings that leadership aspect to the wide receiver room that they need because they have a fairly young offense. Even him as a young player, he's taken that leadership role.
Yeah, it's huge.
So he's one of my favorite wide. I think he's a top 10 wide receiver, and it's more of a hot take because a lot of people don't view him as a big time number one. Right. I think he is. I think he's fantastic.
So we had him as our breakout player last year in this division.
And didn't he now we got to look it up. What did he do last year stat wise? Let's see.
I mean, he was fantastic. So I mean, this year he's still even I think coming into his own. I don't even think he's at his peak yet.
Let's look. So. Yeah, last year 1,100 yards, 6 touchdowns. I mean, he was averaging 11 a catch. That's fantastic. He's really, really good. Really good.
And like
106 catches, just a catch machine.
Somebody to lean on that offense. Somebody to help out Jared Goff because we've talked about Goff a lot. He's a really good quarterback, but he needs things to go his way. He needs weapons to throw to. And AMON-RA provides a great one right there.
It wouldn't surprise me if he's got like 120 catches. We do this every now and then. I'll make like a prediction stat-wise.
Yeah.
AMON-RA St. Brown, I'm going to go like 120 catches, 1,350 on yardage, 9 touchdowns. That's a damn good year. That's a Pro Bowl year. I'll tell you that right now. That's probably even an All-Pro year.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to Defensive Player of the Year. There's not a ton of defensive talent in this division.
Yeah, we're
going through like the Vikings terrible. The Lions don't have a ton of talent on defense.
The Bears got rid of most of theirs.
Yeah, I mean the ones they signed I don't view as like MVP, defensive player of the year level players. So we're gonna go Jaire Alexander because I think at his peak, like 2 years ago, he was a high end corner, probably a top 2 to 3 corner. Had a down year last year. I do think he rebounds a little bit, returns to like top 5 to 7 level DB.
I can see that, yeah.
3 picks, very, very locked down on the outside. So I'll go Jaire Alexander for Defensive Player of the Year.
I mean, I agree. In a division with not too much talent on defense, he certainly rises to the top. And that's not a dig at him at all. I mean, he's a very good DB.
He was still good last year. He just wasn't the level that he was the year before.
Right. And I just think when you look at this division as a whole, like there is such a lack of talent on the defensive side of the football. So, and that's especially weird, too, with Dan Campbell. I mean, you would expect.
He was a tight end, but he is that like tough, like defensive. He almost he reminds me of a defensive coach.
Yes,
but he should get a lockdown DB. They tried with Jeff Okudah, it didn't work out.
Yeah,
they got what's his face from us, Sutton. Yeah, so that's a
tough
loss. No, he was good last year.
He was all right.
Yeah, he was okay. They overpaid him. Yeah,
yes.
They overpaid him. Okay, either way. Also one thing with Jaire Alexander. DBs are very valuable, right? So if you're looking at Defensive Player of the Year, you're looking at like somebody that gets a lot of sacks or a lockdown DB. So that's kind of how we got on Jaire Alexander. All right, Breakout Player of the Year, AIDAN Hutchinson, second-year player out of Michigan, edge rusher for the Detroit Lions. Again, edge rusher, sacks. Started slow last year, started to pick it up towards the end of the year. He had like a stretch where he had like 6-7 games without a sack, picked it up at the end of the year. I think he kind of keeps feeding on a very good second half of the season. I think one of the main problems there is he doesn't have a ton of talent outside of him on that defensive front, so he's getting doubled a lot.
Yeah.
Like for a rookie, he faced a ton of double teams. So that's my worry there. I do think he'll break out somewhere around like 13, 14 sacks, like top 10 in the league in sacks. I think would be like a good benchmark for him to hit in his second year. And I think if he does, like he's not TJ Watt level, but could he be TJ Watt in the sense of 1 or 2 games out of the year? I'm not saying he's going to win the game, but he's gonna make a game-breaking fumble recovery, forced fumble, like big sack on a third down. Like I think he's capable of having one of those high-impact plays that damn near win a football game for a team.
Right, and I agree with you there. And he does, his style reminds me a lot of TJ Watt, right?
Yeah, he's not quite as quick, but he's got some quickness on the edge.
And that's the main thing. When he can figure out his pass releases, and that might take a year or two. So, like, a breakout position here, I think, is perfect for him. It's going to take a little bit of time because those tackles in the NFL are not like tackles in college football. I mean, it's a whole different game.
He reminds me of not Nick Bosa, but Joey Bosa. Joey's a little bit bigger, not quite as quick as Nick Bosa. Right, Aidan's not the quickest edge rusher, but he's got a good combination of size and speed.
Got a hell of a lot of strength.
Yeah, right. So he's strong, fast enough to get around the edge. All right, Coach of the Year. We'll go Dan Campbell here. Now, I do think, yes, Kevin O'Connell will win the division at 10-7, but I think Detroit makes the playoffs, and for Detroit making the playoffs for the first time in what, 10-ish years?
Mm-hmm. Longer than that, maybe even. Keep going.
No, I know it's not longer than that. I know the Jets have the longest drought, and they got there with Sanchez in like 13, I want to say. But either way, I think the standard is not making the playoffs for the Lions. So if Dan Campbell can get them to the playoffs, which I believe he will, even win the division, which I don't think they will, but I think they'll get very close, it wouldn't shock me if they did. So to have a season close to double-digit wins, maybe even over double-digit wins, maybe win the division, definitely make the playoffs. That's going to be a huge step forward in the process of rebuilding Detroit, and they're almost there. So I think it'll be a big move for Dan Campbell.
2015.
Okay, 2015, yeah. So it would be 9 years.
Yeah.
Sounds about right. Yeah, feels good.
So either way, those are the superlatives. Run us back down through the list.
Justin Jefferson at MVP. AMON-RA St. Brown Offensive Player of the Year. Jaire Alexander Defensive Player of the Year. The breakout players AIDAN, HUTCHINSON, and Dan Campbell is the Coach of the Year.
Perfect. I'm excited. Another division down next week. AFC North.
Oh, the Lurs, baby.
It's going to be good. It's going to be good.
The Lurs.
I'm pumped up. But guys, make sure you stick around. Third segment coming up. We're going to have the news, and then we're going to have that discussion about the running back situation in the NFL right now and what is going to go on with that. So don't go anywhere. What's up? We're back. Third segment of the issue on July 20th. Going to be a good one here. Got a nice discussion to finish out the show for you guys. But first, we have the news like we do in every third segment. But guys, thanks for stopping in today. Make sure you go and check out theissuesports.com. You can see the shop there. And then you can see all of the different podcasts. We got the two now, the Issue Podcast and Players Only Podcast, both live on theissuesports.com. While you're there, sign up for the newsletter. They come out every Wednesday. All you have to do is put in your email, click submit on that homepage, then it will send you over an email there. You just accept it, and you will be getting the newsletter every single week.
New podcast drops in roughly 2 weeks. 2 weeks, it'll be like a Tuesday.
That's gonna be awesome. So I'm still trying to plan out when we announce the first guest. Do we just wait till the episode comes out, or do we give maybe some special access to the people that have the newsletter? Maybe the people that subscribe to the newsletter get to know.
I think that's
maybe a week early.
I think that's a good idea.
I think it'd be cool. Either way, go check it out. If you haven't, theissuesports.com. But like I said, we have some news to start the segment with, so let's just jump right into that.
All right, story number one here, kind of like built in a little bit of like a rant here, almost. Like that quarterback series on Netflix. First of all, I think it's fantastic.
Phenomenal.
Have you seen it?
Yes.
Well, how many episodes in are you?
I'm on the second one now. I'm kind of taking it slow.
Okay, that's fair. So I finished the second episode. I'm on the third. Got to watch that. Probably watch an episode tonight. I'm trying to figure out like kind of how I want to say it. Like I think because it's not coordinated by the league, right? But the league has to. You would think at least have to approve the access that's given to the documentarians or whatever, whatever you call them, the movie makers, the filmmakers, right?
The documentarians, yes.
Is that not what they're called?
I have no idea. Continue.
Anyway, so you would imagine there's some sort of like clearance you have to go through, whether that's the team, whether that's the league, whether that's both of them. Obviously, you have to get the permission from the players. But either way, my point is whether they got the permission or not, I think it does a lot for the league and for those players. Like, I liked Kirk Cousins. I think he was a top 10 to 12 quarterback in the league prior to it. The more I watch, the more I'm like, I think Kirk is the 10th best quarterback in football. Like I was anywhere between 10 and 12. I think he's now been solidified as my number 10 quarterback. Just the preparation that goes into it, the amount of complexity that goes into playing quarterback in the NFL absolutely baffles me. And I think being able to look behind the scenes at what goes into it, on top of, like, you think your 9 to 5, like as an accountant or whatever, you know, that's like the most basic job I could think of right there, is like stressful, and that like, oh, I have a family, I got to do this on the side, like I got, you know, an event here and there. It's like
yard work that needs done.
Imagine the amount of work that goes into being an NFL quarterback, the amount of film study, obviously the physical demands of that. And then on top of that, having a family, having to go to certain, like there's things that are outside of like what their normal quote unquote work week would be, like preparing for a game. They have to go do an autograph signing thing. They have to go talk to somebody, do an interview here. Like
yeah, there's a lot of like team events.
Those are obligations that they have to meet based on the NFL regulations and the team regulations, on top of a family. A lot of them have young kids, right? We saw that with Mahomes expecting, right, and the young kid, like Kirk Cousins with his family. Could you imagine? Phillip Rivers now has like, I don't know, 10 freaking kids. You know, when he was playing, I think he had like 7 or 8. Like the amount of demand that is on these players, I think it's really good for the league and for those quarterbacks to kind of show it. Be like, we go through a lot. Here's like what it looks like from a day-to-day, week-by-week basis.
Yeah, and I think what this series does more than anything is it makes those players and those stars of the league look more human. It makes them more relatable.
Yeah, for sure.
Because, I mean, most of the time, where do you see Mahomes? He's on ESPN, he's on Fox Sports, he's on CBS doing an interview with somebody, and then, you know, you see him on Sunday, on Thursday, on Monday, whatever the game may be, he's playing. And that's really all you see. You see the post-game interview, you see the pre-game kind of like hype interview, right, where there's some down in the chair and talk to them for like 15 minutes. So, I mean, that's what everybody's used to. And then you're able to kind of like look behind the curtain a little bit and see like the actual player and the actual person behind the player.
Yeah, no, I think making players more relatable is good for the league as a whole. Like, I think relatable stars is good. Yeah. Like, I think that's a massive part. Now, it's a different league, but I think it's a massive part why Steph Curry's super likable is because, like, for example, LeBron's like 6'8", 6'9". I don't know what he runs like on F40, but is like really fast for like a Coke machine with legs, can dunk the basketball, like just insane things that 99.9% of the population just can't do.
Right, that's
and
like
I'm not saying
fraction of a percent.
Yeah, I'm not saying that 99% of the population can shoot like Steph Curry, but they can physically like attempt it. Like they can relate to, okay, like 6'2", 6'3", like undersized, overlooked, like has to work extra hard, always moves out the ball, like more hustle than it is
come on, we all
raw talent.
We all have that one friend that we've gone and played basketball with, and they're like 5'9", and they're just
and good for no reason.
Every single from everywhere.
And so I think it makes like the stars more relatable, and I think that makes people more likable. It's better for the league, better for the players themselves.
Yeah, I agree. I've really liked it. Like I said, I'm taking it slow. I have the tendency to binge watch, so like once I hop on something, 2 days goes by, and I'm like, well, I'm done with it.
And so you're like, now what do I watch? You got to space it out a little.
Kind of prolong it,
It's actually smart.
Enjoy it.
All right, story number 2 here, actually relating to Steph Curry, wins the Pro-Am golf event.
Dude, he's good.
Had a hole in one. Did you see the walk-off putt where he like putts and then like before it even goes in, he's starting to walk off, kind of like he does with the threes, how he turns around.
Yeah, the Tiger method too, because Tiger's done that a couple of times.
It's pretty cool. But no, like Steph is like, he's a good golfer. Like he is a good golfer. There was a story, I think it was Steve Kerr, Draymond told it, where it was like during the finals one time they had a day off, and like he had a bad game the day before, he had like 11 points or something like that.
Oh yeah, I did.
And they're like he said he needed to like golf to clear his head, so like he golfed and just made it back in time for practice, and like the next game he went out and dropped like almost 40 or something like that.
He went golfing the next morning.
Yeah, like
right after the game.
And I guess it helped him like kind of clear your head a little bit, you know.
Absolutely.
It is peaceful. We golfed the other day. It's a very enjoyable day.
Yeah,
even if you're not good, because we're not good. We're barely breaking hundreds, so it's like
I mean, it's tough. He's definitely a lot
better than us. Yeah, that's for sure. But like we're hitting it, goes in the water. Here you go, hit another one, toss one out of the cart. You know,
a little scratch golf.
Yeah.
But I mean, at the end of the day, golf is fantastic. I'm glad Steph Curry is able to use that as an outlet. We already have a couple more days scheduled.
He kind of reminds me of like Mookie Betts, how he can like. Have you seen there's like clips of Mookie Betts like running routes in football, and like he's like damn near a pro bowler, like. For what reason is Mookie Betts that good at bowling?
The bowling one shocked me. I saw his bowling highlights.
He's really good.
One of those TikToks that's just
he's really good.
Mookie Betts bowling highlights.
Yeah, he's really good for no reason. Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that with Steph.
He had what's this kind of split called when there's a pin on each side?
is it 710?
710 sounded familiar to me.
So
but
it's like,
I don't know.
I think
how
it goes
the
from the
pins are
tip. It gets like
placed.
1 and then 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then it would be 710. I think.
I don't know.
Well, I think it's usually said though 10-7 split. That sounds better.
Either way.
I don't
He
know.
hit
We
one
don't
of those.
cover a ton
I
of
can't even
PBA
do that.
on here.
I can't even do that in Wii bowling, let alone real life bowling. I can't
Yeah.
spin the ball.
No. Absolutely not. Story number 3 here. Tyson Fury and Francis Ngannou will square off in a boxing match in Saudi Arabia in October of 2023. So coming up here in the next couple months.
Putting all my money on
not
Francis.
A couple months. What's that, like 4 months?
All my money on Francis.
See, now I did that one time, but it was in UFC against Cyril Gane, and it paid. I think Tyson Fury is going to light him up like a Christmas tree.
Okay, and therefore he's going to be the favorite. So if you bet Francis and he hits...
Okay, I'm not saying it's
gonna be
crazy
a
to
payday.
bet Francis, but I just think the speed and the technical abilities of Tyson, like there's a clip of Francis Ngannou who he knocked somebody out in UFC. He's running towards them swinging like a grizzly bear, like just mayhem, like no form, no like any bit of like precision to it.
Yes.
And that is like an embodiment of Francis. He is undisciplined, but he just has the power of like a grizzly bear. Like it's just, he's insane.
Well, I'm sure he's training for this whole boxing thing
Well,
now.
yeah, I'm not saying he's not, but I mean, I don't think he's going to be able to match the precision and the technicality of Tyson Fury. Like,
No, he won't.
like for example, I do think Conor McGregor is more physically gifted than Floyd Mayweather when they fought, when they boxed. Mm-hmm. But it's a completely different game. Like, he has the reach on Floyd, right? I think borderline pound for pound, he's stronger than Floyd, right? He's maybe not quicker, but like he's a more talented overall fighter. But in boxing, Floyd is way more technical, is quicker in the boxing ring, like head movement, protecting himself, like, and that's why he won. Like, I think Tyson is going to be a better technical fighter than Francis.
Sure. I don't know.
I'm excited to watch it though. I'll tune in for sure.
See, and these are the only boxing matches that I actually watch. Like I don't
I'll
like
watch
this.
Tyson Fury versus whoever.
I don't like boxing. I love UFC.
I love UFC.
Boxing. Once you watch UFC, boxing's cool at first, but once you watch UFC, you never go back to boxing.
I think big boxing events, there's nothing quite like it. Like the pageantry and like the tradition of a big boxing match like this one is unlike anything. But I do think UFC's better.
Yeah, I mean, I'll watch this fight. I'm excited for this specific fight, but I would never just sit down and watch some sort of boxing fight night.
I'm with you.
There it is. That's
Fair enough. All right, let's talk about all this mayhem in the NFL. Everybody complaining about the running back
Every
market.
single running back, it seems like.
Yeah, so let's just get into the running backs.
Yeah, that's a situation.
Yeah. So so for those of you who don't know, Saquon Barkley, Josh Jacobs, both were franchise tagged this offseason, looking to then, the franchise tag, you can kind of decide to slap it on, what is it, in like May, I think. And then from there, that gives the team time to renegotiate a longer term deal, with the star, right? So that's what New York was hoping to do with Saquon. That's what Vegas was hoping to do with Josh Jacobs. Neither of them reach a deal by the deadline, which was, I want to say, Monday at like 4 p.m. Eastern time. So they don't reach the deal, which means they will either play under the franchise. Like, the only contract they have available this year is the franchise tag. So they can either play under that or hold out, which, again, you still can't sign a new deal at this point. Like, the deadline is over to sign a new deal. So it's either the franchise tag or they don't play this year.
Yeah.
It's a weird situation. So that's the situation with those two backs. And now a lot of other backs have spoken out. Austin Eckler, Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey a little bit was basically saying, like, wow, it's crazy that they haven't gotten paid. He hasn't been super outspoken about it, but has definitely been talking about it. My whole take on the situation, like, I see both sides of the coin, right? So let's start with, I guess, my more, like, pessimistic side of it, my more, like, critical side of it. It's a free market, right? Like, the NFL is a free market, right? You will be paid what teams are willing to pay you.
Yeah.
Just like a supermarket is, right? A supermarket can charge whatever they want, and if somebody's willing to buy it, well, then that's just what the product costs. That's
right.
how it works, right? And that's how it works from the supplier to the grocery store, right? Coke says this pallet of Diet Coke costs X amount of dollars. And the store, the distributor, whoever's going to buy it says, okay, we are willing to pay that. That is what it's worth. You're worth what people are willing to pay you. And what determines that is the value of whatever it is, right? Like, whatever the product is, whatever the service is, that value, Your value comes from what somebody's willing to pay. We talked about this with Lamar, right? Lamar said, I'm worth this, I'm worth that, I deserve this, I deserve that. No, you deserve and you're worth what somebody's going to pay you on the open market, right? So Baltimore is telling you, we don't think you're worth this. Lamar says, I think I'm worth this. Eventually, they come to some sort of an agreement. Obviously, that didn't happen in this case.
Time has run out, yeah.
Yeah, but my point is, like, that's the problem with the whole running back debate. It's running backs are not as valuable as other positions in football. I'm sorry, but it's true. There are plenty of examples of teams going to find late-round steals. Tyler Algier with the Falcons. Austin Eckler himself should understand that you can get value in later rounds, so you're not going to pay for somebody. He was a later round pick. Elijah Mitchell for San Francisco. Derrick Henry was a second round pick. Jonathan Taylor was a second round pick.
Yeah.
Like, you can get value deeper in the draft. So I don't understand the confusion or like the disagreement here with the backs in the league. Like, this has been the case for a while now. That's the reality of the situation. So that's my more critical view on the situation. But on the flip side, Austin Eckler brought up a good point where he's making less than some number 3 receivers on teams.
Which is crazy.
Now, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But again, like, this isn't a problem of, like, reshaping the league. Like, there's no collusion against running backs because that's the case. That's just the fact of the matter. A dumb team was willing to pay that much money for a number 3 receiver, and there's teams that aren't willing to pay that for running back. Sorry, but that's their decision. It's their money to do what they want. So I get his point, like, that's crazy, but that's not our problem.
No, it's not. And they can value the positions that they want to value. That's fine. But, like, we were just having this conversation today, too, earlier. You are paid based on how easy it is to replace you. Now, I'm not saying it's easy to replace a running back like a Saquon Barkley or an Austin Eckler or a Josh Jacobs. I'm not saying that.
It's easier.
But it's easier than replacing a quarterback. It's easier than replacing a number 1 receiver. The prime for a running back is very, very short, and the longevity is not really there all that often because it's such a brutal position. I mean, you're running into a line full of 300-pound grown men that are there to rip you apart. So, yeah, you're not going to last that long in the league. That's going to dock you a couple million right there.
Go look at the Super Bowl champions the last, 5 to 10. Which one has an elite back? Please help me. Who? Cam Akers? Cam Akers is not an elite back for the Rams. The Chiefs have a revolving door usually, like Isaiah Pacheco, again, 7th round pick.
Yeah.
The Niners, but they, again, not elite. They find steals in the draft. They had a good run game, not in one elite back making a ton of money.
Right. And
go look at the top paid backs right now. Derrick Henry, Christian McCaffrey. Now, granted, McCaffrey, but when they were getting to the Super Bowl, he wasn't there.
Well, the league is such a pass-heavy league now, too. So, you look back in NFL history, sure, running backs, if you didn't have a great running back, you weren't making it to the Super Bowl.
No,
because it was ground and pound. Running from the eye, a lot of power stuff, right? That was pretty much what football was.
Yeah.
And then they would throw off of that every now and then. Now it's such a pass-centric league that I'm not saying running backs are devalued, but you don't have to have a top-of-the-league running back to win. So if that's a position that organization can save money on and then go spend that elsewhere, maybe on a piece in the secondary, because it's a pass-heavy league, you're going to need guys that defend the pass really well.
I would agree.
So go spend money in the secondary.
Rushers.
You need a guy on the edge. You need some receivers. You need a quarterback, for God's sakes. So you need money to go around. And if that's going to be your, I guess, MO on how you're going to do things, and you're going to pay the running back a little bit less, but so you're going to restructure your roster so you can pay a couple more important positions that you feel are more important a little bit more.
That's
fine,
their
by all
prerogative.
means do that. Yeah,
exactly. That's the team's prerogative. This whole idea that there's an agenda against running backs and that there needs to be some sort of standardization. No. That's the beauty of the league. People deal with their salary caps differently.
Yes.
If you want to go get paid a ton of money as a running back, the trade-off is going to be you're going to have to find a dumb organization to do it.
Right.
You're going to the Bears, for example. If you're a linebacker, you're probably itching to play for the Bears if money's your number one focus.
You can't wait to go to Chicago.
Exactly, right? But on the flip side, notice how none of the smart teams are paying running backs. Yeah. So if you want to go win a Super Bowl, you have to take what that team's willing to give you, which is usually lesser if you're in one of the least valuable roles.
And I am another kind of point to this argument also. I mean, can we shut up too? I mean,
it's
you are complaining about making $10 million. Are you serious? $10 million a year, and they're gonna stage this little hissy fit.
And I know that people are like, well, they could only play for a certain amount of years. It's like, yes, but you being an NFL player grants you a lifetime of the ability to go get another job.
Yeah.
That is going to pay well.
Not even that, but they also have full pensions through the league. So once you retire,
depending on the amount of time you play,
yes. So like you play, and then what? You get to sit and start some sort of clothing brand if you want to with your wife and kids, and just get paid for the rest of your life.
And even while you're playing, you can make millions on endorsements, especially if you're a star like Saquon Barkley.
100%.
In New York, Saquon could go find 10 endorsements tomorrow.
That would all be worth more than his contract.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Mahomes borderline makes more on endorsements. Like, I don't know. Those who get it, get it. Those who don't. I don't know.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm crazy.
Slightly annoying, though, I would say.
I'm pretty annoyed as well.
I feel like it's just unneeded drama at this point. I feel like somebody just needed to say something.
Yeah.
You know? People got bored. But, guys, that's all we have for today's show. So make sure you're going to theissuesports.com, checking out everything we have going on over there. Also, all the social medias. Links can be found in the description of the episode, along with all the other platforms the show is available on. Guys, like we said, keep an eye out for August 1st. All the updates will be coming to you from the Issue Sports Instagram, the Issue Podcast Instagram, and, of course, the Players Only Instagram. So go follow on all those different platforms. But, guys, until next Thursday, that was The Issue.